Alright ladies and gents, welcome back. Today we have some more Destiny 2 and we're looking at what I believe is the best auto rifle in the game right now, which is very high praise, and it's highly farmable for both the role that I have and other roles that could be labelled as god roles, I guess. Essentially looking for a great damage buffing perk combined with the ultimate reload speed buffing perk for just straight up ease of use. This is the Steel Feather Repeater. Now I know we aren't exactly early on in the season, so most actual Destiny players are likely sitting there going, yeah, I know, obviously I know what that gun is, I know how to get it, but I just had to talk about it after I got this role. And hopefully it can inspire some of you to go out and try to get your own one if you haven't already. Because let's be realistic, auto rifles haven't had much of a relevant spot within the Destiny 2 meta for quite some time, whether it be PvP or PvE. Personally, I throw one on now and again to do whatever I'm doing in the game, and I just end up feeling a bit let down. But not here. Why is that? Well, two things. Feeding Frenzy and Swashbuckler. It's a hell of a combo. Like, scary good. Only 3 weapons in the entire game right now can currently drop with this super potent combination. Yep, just 3 guns. So the fact that the Steel Feather Repeater is easily farmable makes this an even more relevant subject to cover. But before we look directly at the perks, let's very quickly cover the basics of this weapon. So, Steel Feather Repeater itself is a rapid fire frame auto rifle with a rate of fire of 720 rounds per minute, which is a lot, and it kind of reminds me of something like Doctrine of Passing from Destiny 1. That kind of feel. It's almost a cross in this game between auto rifles and submachine guns, and that's a lot of fun. But I did notice it felt a little bit unwieldy at first, a little hard to handle, it kicks up and around, and I am playing on console. This makes sense considering it's a high rate of fire auto rifle, and the 2 main perks that I think make mine so good don't actually assist in controlling the recoil at all. That recoil tends to go up and to the right a bit, I believe, and without particularly impressive stability or recoil stats standing at 38 and 57 respectively. But after just a brief while of getting used to the gun, and, importantly, throwing on the counterbalance stock mod, well, I'm having no issues at all anymore. And I'm sure that means that most of you guys will also be able to get to grips with the gun, and even more so on PC. Maybe some of you won't even need counterbalance stock, we'll see. And so, now, those 2 perks, that rare combo for absolute destruction. Well, Feeding Frenzy doesn't take a whole lot of explaining to make its value obvious. Getting a kill dramatically increases your reload speed. It doesn't have to be a precision kill, you don't have to stack kills, nothing like that, just get a kill. And receive the buff if you reload within a certain window after the kill. What's not to like? This makes killing ads an absolute dream. That feeling you get of taking down enemies, getting a rapid fire reload in, and then continuing to drop bodies. It can make for a super high tempo playstyle. It's fun, there's very little downtime, and I love it. I honestly don't have enough weapons with Feeding Frenzy, and using this Steel Feather Repeater has me focused upon getting hold of some more Feeding Frenzy weapons. And it's extremely, if not especially welcome on something like an auto rifle, as the whole deal is you're kind of spraying away, so not requiring precision kills for the perk is great. And as for Swashbuckler, well, this is my new favourite damage buffing perk in Destiny 2. Getting a kill with your weapon, or with the melee, buffs your damage for a period of time, and you can stack this up to 5 times, at which point you keep trying to get kills in order to maintain Swashbuckler times 5. But the main thing to realise about this perk is you can activate times 5 Swashbuckler with just a single melee kill. 1 melee kill and you have your max damage buff active. And with a lot of ads being easily killed with a melee, well, it makes our Steel Feather Repeater here extremely powerful. Now I'll try to go into the numbers, and I believe they're all accurate, but it is just a tad hard to find definitive answers with Bungie having altered Rampage, etc., or the damage dealing perks. So if anything is off, someone let me know in the comments, but I'm pretty sure this is right. Basically, Swashbuckler gives you a 6.6% damage buff, or somewhere around there, stacking up to 5 times, meaning Swashbuckler times 5 gives you a 33% damage buff, which also lasts for I think 5 seconds, and is refreshed if you get a kill or kills before those 5 seconds expire. If it does expire, you just start building your stacks again with your weapon kills, or melee something for that max buff straight back. Rinse and repeat. And with Feeding Frenzy making your reload much faster, you spend less time wasting your stacks while reloading. Now this 33% max damage buff is the same as, I believe, Rampage times 3, it's the same as Kill Clip, but it is less I think than Multi-Kill Clip, which I think can give you a 50% buff. Again, correct me if any of these damage values have changed, but the main point is that Swashbuckler doesn't give you the same maximum damage output that Multi multi-kill clip does. And that's irrelevant because Steel Feather Repeater can also roll with multi-kill clip, which kind of brings things to a point of which you prefer, and also basically gives you 2 damage options to go for if you want a quote-unquote god roll, which is a good thing. Now me personally, I prefer Swashbuckler because even with Feeding Frenzy, I prefer to get a damage buff without needing to reload, and getting a full damage buff with melee kills is just too good to turn down. But the choice is yours. You want to go for multi-kill clip? Be my guest, it's still fantastic. However, I just can't understate how insane getting 5 stacks with a melee really is. That's in both PvE and PvP. Then consider if you use that on a specific melee focused build, something where you're frequently using shoulder charge or whatever it may be, it's crazy powerful. But before we look at the gun some more, let's cover the most efficient way to try to get a great roll on Steel Feather Repeater. If you already know this, don't worry, I'll make it quick. So Steel Feather is a reward from the sundial. Your best bet is to rank up your obelisk to get to the point of receiving 4 rewards per sundial run. And with sundial only taking, let's say, maybe, I don't know, as an estimate 20 minutes, as you know, a wild estimate, you could be pulling around 12 Steel Feather Repeaters an hour with an average group of randoms. Then on top of that, if you have your season pass ranked up to 92, you receive the Time Lost Arsenal Obelisk perk, which permanently unlocks access to time lost weapons that contain an alternative final perk. This doubles your chances of getting the final perk you want, in my case, Swashbuckler. But if you don't fancy doing this through the sundial, or you have times where you want to do other stuff and still maybe get a Steel Feather Repeater, you can just do the Steel Feather Repeater weapon bounties from the Tangled Shore Obelisk. So now you know which main perks I recommend, wanted, and got, but what else is there that may interest you? Well, the key final perks besides Swashbuckler, I reckon, are the aforementioned multi-kill clip or Vorpal Weapon, with Vorpal Weapon allowing you to do more damage against bosses, vehicles, and, perhaps most interestingly, Guardians with their super active. Or they're surrounded for a pure PvE focused option to take advantage of bonus damage when 3 or more enemies are in close proximity. As for an alternative to Feeding Frenzy, there's Firmly Planted for bonuses to accuracy, stability, and handling when crouched, which is great if you crouch a lot, awful if you don't, like me. There's Subsistence that partially reloads your magazine from reserves with kills, but your reserve ammo capacity is reduced. Or perhaps Grave Robber to pair with Swashbuckler for partially refilling your ammo with melee kills. It could even be argued that Ambitious Assassin or Slideways are decent options as well, and that's all of the available perks in that slot. But overall though, I feel Feeding Frenzy is the standout option. And so, as a PvE focused weapon, this is the auto rifle that makes up for the shortcomings of so many other ones. Although Breakneck is getting a buff very soon, so I'm going to be looking at that and probably making a video. But for now, Steel Feather is fantastic. It's beastly against low tier ads, has that little extra punch against mages and shields due to how easy it is to repeatedly get Swashbuckler times 5 with melees and not having to just build it slowly back up every time. And Feeding Frenzy allows for very little downtime. I've used this weapon in a multitude of activities and it just hasn't let me down. And in Gambit, for example, it's very, very good. But what about PvP? Well, it's still an auto rifle, there's no getting around that, but it's an extremely good one. It provides no real benefit for the first kill of a chain, of course, but it can drop people quickly at close range if your aim is solid. And of course, a melee kill still grabs you that max damage buff. Plus, Feeding Frenzy is still totally clutch. That said, it's not competition for top tier players using the absolute meta. Hand cannons and pulses have very clear advantages, not least the fact that you can effectively peek shoot with them, and hand cannons particularly allow you better movement options. But in general, especially where specifically auto rifles are concerned, the Steel Feather Repeater with this roll is very, very good. I recommend you giving it a spin if you get it or another great roll, and it's pretty much up to you what elemental weapon you pair with it. It comes down to your playstyle. And so, that is the Steel Feather Repeater with the God Roll combo of Feeding Frenzy and Swashbuckler. I'm delighted to have it, and I highly recommend you take some time to get a roll that you really enjoy, especially as it's so easy to do compared to most other weapons in the game. And so, what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Do you have a God Roll Steel Feather? Do you want one? Do you rate the gun? Let's hear it all. If you enjoyed the video, hitting the like button makes me smile, as does subscribing and turning on those post notifications. Then, if you're interested, find links to my Twitter, my stream, my Patreon, and all of that in the description and my pinned comment. Here's the Board of Awesome for the epic people who support the channel on Patreon. They're all absolute heroes and love them all deeply and of course, often. If you want to join them on the Board of Awesome, the link to the Patreon page is in the description and my pinned comment. And with that all said, I'm Get Good Guy, and I'll see you next time. Laters. Number 3, the Salt Lord. They may be a good player or a bad player, it doesn't matter. Their sole purpose is to get under your skin. Everything is a big deal. Everything is to be taken seriously. Every kill they get must be followed with a teabag, a long teabag. And every match must be played as if it's the World Championships, of which